Present.
Mr. Green.
Here.
Mr. St. Pierre here. Mr. Sadowski.
Here.
Mr. Stevens. Present. Mr. Warner.
Here.
Everyone's present. Next item.
Adoption, item 4, adoption of the agenda, consent agenda.
So moved.
Motion by Green.
Support.
Support by Warner. Any discussion? Mr. Stevens.
I would like to remove item 4M, 4P, and 4Q.
Is there accept the amendment to the motion, Mr. Green?
Yes.
Mr. Warner?
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Mr.
Before
Chair?
the motion?
Yeah, I just had a question. Mr. Stevens, one of those is for the yoga.
That's correct.
Okay, that was, I had calls throughout the day on that, and you and I had spoke about it. It is just to set a public hearing date on it, which we will hear it in January. The attorney's office called me on it, and so I know we were going to pull it because there was some discussion that needed to go on about it, but we can, if you still want to pull it, we can still pull it, but it's,
No, so that, well,
talk.
evidently I made a mistake and I didn't call it for setting an agenda date or a public hearing date on that, so
So why don't we keep it pulled?
let's
Set a
okay.
date for it.
pull it and set a date.
We did set a date for it. Isn't it January, in January?
No, oh, yeah, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I did not read it, yes, January 10th. So eliminate item 4M from my request then.
Agreed. Agreed.
Wait, wasn't the, is that 4N?
M is in Mary.
Does mine say N? Is that the yoga?
Yeah.
Mine said N. All right, but nonetheless, so 4M is off, we just got 4P and Q is being pulled, correct?
Yes, and, okay, we're just on consent agenda, yes.
All right, let's call the motion one more time. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So ordered. Next item.
Item 5, adoption of the agenda. So moved.
Support.
Motion by Stevens, support by Green.
Mr. Chair,
Discussion, Mr. Stevens.
if I may, the administration has asked that item 12 be removed from the agenda. And we have another item that we discussed that needs to be added, and that would be the the stipulation and final order of dismissal, and we would make that item 18F. For M would become 18C. 4P, or, excuse me,
Okay,
delete that.
thank you.
4P, I had it already written down. 4P would become 18C. 4Q would become 18D. And then, of course, the order, stipulation of final order of dismissal would be for 18F.
Not E? It'll be E.
Correct, correction, E.
We got
You're
C,
right,
we
yes.
got C, D, and E that is added in regards to the motion. Mr. Stevens, do you amend your motion accordingly? You amend your motion?
Motion, yes.
Yeah, and Mr. Green, you accept the motion?
Yes.
Amended. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The agenda has been adopted as amended.
Item 6, approval of the minutes of special meeting of November 14th, 2011, regular meeting of November 15th, 2011, and regular meeting of November 22nd, 2011.
Any motions?
So moved.
Motion by Warner,
Support.
support by Stevens. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So moved.
Item 7, approval of the bills.
Is there any motion to approve the bills?
So moved.
Motion by Green,
Support with
support by
discussion.
Stevens. Discussion, Mr. Stevens.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Melzick, thank you very much. We discussed a number of my items the other day, and I thank you for getting me the answers on those. The three last items that I have, the big one is, of course, the check number 512714 in the amount of $12,051.87 to the Macomb County Health Department, housing inspectors. As this council is well aware of, that on October 11th, those items were tabled. And so I would like to pull this item for tonight, table it, and then revisit it next week when we actually have that item on the agenda. If that agenda passes, then of course, we'll have to discuss this item here.
Agreed. Yeah.
Okay?
Yep.
What's the check number?
Check number 512714 in the amount of $12,051.87 for the Macomb County Health Department.
Okay.
And then my last item, Mr. Melzick, I'm not sure what you found out, but it was only for $538.20. The portion, part of that goes to the council office, and then the other part went to the courts.
Yes.
In looking into this, the reason why the council office has that subscription is because they have to actually clip the article of any public notices that appear in the paper. So that's their reason. I was wondering if you had found out anything why the courts have theirs, or...
No, I have not yet, and I will follow up on that with the court.
Okay. So I guess I would ask the maker of the motion to amend the motion to, well, we need a table.
Yeah, we'll have a separate, we'll call two motions.
Okay.
Tabling, then the bills.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any further discussion?
Yep, Mr. Chair.
Ms. Collegio.
Yeah, good evening, Mr. Malduck.
Good evening.
Yeah, a quick question for you. On page 12 of the bills, bill number 512764, Tantera Transportation, Voting Equipment Transportation.
Yes.
You know, I had called you, and I'd asked the question in the amount of $4,200 if that was bid out.
Right.
And the answer back correct is that it was not put up for bid, correct? It was
That
a
is
sole-
correct.
A sole
Sole
source?
source, yes.
A sole source.
Yes.
Okay, I just want to make sure that I had that correct when I talked to you. Thank you. That's it.
You're welcome.
Any further discussion? I have a question.
Yes.
On page 21, two items to the MDOT, Bridges I-696, Ryan Roads 8 to 9 mile. I don't recall this in my previous experience as a council person, and maybe you can give me an idea why are we paying MDOT checks for this particular work?
Those
Approximately
are
38,000.
both debt service funds, and for the 400 series there, the 433 and 435, those are both debt service. So those are payments to MDOT through our debt service funds.
Okay. We have a debt service fund with the MDOT, or is that where the money comes from?
Those payments are to MDOT and through the Michigan Transportation Funds.
Okay. Any further discussion? Why don't we take the tabling motion first? In regards to the motion, is there a motion, there was a motion by Mr. Stevens, there was who supported?
Support.
Support by Mr. Green. In regards to the tabling motion, we'll question the motion. Mr. Stevens?
Yes.
Mr. Green?
Yes.
Mr. Warner?
Yes.
Mr. Sadowski? Yes. Mr. Bacamino?
Yes.
Ms. Collegio?
Yes.
Mr. St. Pierre, yes. In regards to the original motion, approval of the bills, we had already included the amendment. Mr. Green?
Yes.
Mr. Stevens?
Yes.
Mr. Warner?
Yes.
Mr. Sadowski? Yes. Mr. Bacamino?
Yes.
Ms. Collegio?
Yes.
Mr. St. Pierre, yes. Item number 8.
Thank you, Council.
Item number 8A, approval of the building authority checks, meeting of December 6, 2011. Motion,
Motion to approve.
Motion by Sadowski. Support?
Support.
support by Warner. Discussion? Seeing no discussion, Mr. Sadowski.
Yes.
Mr. Warner.
Yes.
Mr. Green.
Yes.
Mr. Stevens.
No.
Ms. Colegio.
Yes.
Mr. Bachmino.
No.
Mr. St. Pierre, yes. Item number 9.
Item 9, announcements.
Well, do we go right to 9A? Anybody else?
No, announcements and then 9A.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Is there anybody have any announcements?
Mr. Chair.
Ms. Colegio.
Yes, after the last council meeting, I had given out a few phone numbers for people that might be seeking food, or hungry or needy, or know someone that is. I have a few more I just wanted to give out really quick. We have Lord of the Harvest, 586-498-8869. That's 498-8869. And Inside America Foundation, 747-7435. And the number for Liberty Foursquare, again, because I had so many people call and ask, was 754-2400. This is the time of the year, there's a lot of need out there, and, these numbers as well work great if there's a place that you're looking for to drop off food for needy. Thank you.
Any other announcements? I'd like to make one. Wayne State University is playing for a Division II National Championship this Saturday at 11 a.m. Most of the older people know them as the Wayne State Tartars. Some of the young people know them as the Wayne State Warriors. I played football there for 4 years and graduated, and so did my son this Saturday. So 11 a.m. Saturday, Wayne State University. I'm sure there's a lot of young athletes from City of Warren playing on that team as well. Any other announcements? Wayne State University of Detroit.
Is it on?
It's on ESPN at 11 a.m.
It wasn't on.
It was on ESPNU, and depending on if you have those channels, they also had it on online. But it is on ESPN at 11 o'clock.
All right.
Any other announcements?
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Warner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to thank all the volunteers over the last couple of weeks selling the Warren Sterling Heights Goodfellows newspapers. We've been out at various locations. We appreciate all the support. The food bank is still in dire need of donations, whether it be monetary or canned goods. The phone number that can be reached there for the food bank, which is right behind the community center here, is 586-979-4313. And if you'd like to drop off a cash donation in the mail, you could do the Warren Sterling Heights Goodfellows, Post Office Box 555, Warren, Michigan 48090. Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Green.
thank you. To continue on what Councilman Warner was saying, they have it at Meyer right now. When you're checking out the Meyer on Mound, I noticed they have a little card. It's a $10 donation to the Warren Goodfellows. You can just pick up the card and scan it, and that's an easy way to give them a donation. So they have that available right now. So I've seen it for the past month, and did it a couple times.
Very good.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You're welcome. Any other announcements? I guess we'll go to 9A.
Item 9A is Corporal Matt Nichols' special presentation regarding safety concerns of door-to-door solicitation. And this was at the request of Councilman Warner. So, Mr. Warner, would you please set this up?
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Over the last 6 months on the campaign trail, all of us up here have addressed a number of concerns whenever we've gone door to door. But in my particular instance, had a lot of people that were concerned about the door-to-door solicitations, and they've asked a number of questions. I informed them that we do have someone in charge of that, and there are public service announcements on TV Warren. But I thought at this particular time it would be appropriate to introduce the gentleman who is in charge of this facility, and his name is Corporal Matt Nichols, and I invited him up here to give a short presentation and then open it up to this body for questions. But in the interest of public safety, I'd like to turn the presentation over to Corporal Matt Nichols.
Thank you.
Corporal Nichols.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate the time to come before you today, and anyone that knows me knows I'm very, very passionate about this topic. It's really a tough sell sometimes, but door-to-door solicitation and the way people are approached, particularly senior citizens in the realm of victimization, really is heartbreaking and heart-wrenching, and is very, very serious, not only in the city of Warren, but nationwide. With the support of the administration over the years, I've been able to develop a wealth of knowledge and travel all over the country now, putting the city of Warren in the spotlight as being at the forefront of combating these crimes and attacking these criminals that specifically target elderly and senior citizens. So with Commissioner Green and Deputy Commissioner Galasso, Captain Henriksen, and Captain Pavlik really giving me some latitude, I was able to develop a countywide task force targeting specific individuals that really prey on our elderly residents. So I'll make my comments brief, but there's really some important information, I think, that I'd like to get out to some senior citizens in our community, especially with the pending water meter replacement, which is really an important issue in my eyes from a crime prevention standpoint. So when you talk about crime and senior citizens, the most prevalent thing in their mind is violent crime. The reality is that perception is based on the evening news. When you look at the lead stories on the evening news, it's always the shootings and stabbings and murders and all the high-profile cases. When in reality, you're talking to senior citizens and elderly residents, it's all con men. It's the people that come to your door and get you to willingly but unwittingly engage in an activity with them. So through crime prevention, we can prevent almost 100% of these as long as we can educate people on what to properly do and what to properly look out for. When you look at the big picture and the way these people operate, it's really amazing to see how smooth and professional they are. This is a video that was taken from inside an elderly resident's home. And there's no way for me to depict what really goes on. We talk about smooth persuasion and the way that these people operate. It's all over once the door is open.
My God, it's been a long time. How you been? Okay. Long time. How you been feeling? Oh, pretty good. How's the missus? What's that? How's the missus? She's not here. What happened? She died a long time ago. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. I'm sorry to hear that. I'm terribly sorry to hear that. She was a good person. She was a good person. She was a good lady. God bless her soul. God bless her soul. Let me show you this.
And that right there is all it takes. And we're seeing a lot more of these video cameras popping up in residents across the country, and it's been very beneficial for us because as people age, they typically don't want to give up their freedoms or the perceptions of freedoms and move into assisted living or move in with relatives. So with security cameras really coming down in price, a lot more people are installing them in their homes, and much to the benefit of law enforcement, because now we can take these things and actually see the crimes in progress. Prior to this video, we never really were able to witness one of these in progress. You can see the elderly gentleman gets a knock at the door, and by the time he gets to the door and opens it up, the outside door is already open and the guy is in the house. Represents himself from being from a utility company, has the clipboard in his hand, very calm, very persuasive, and he's already in the house. That's a whole different attitude and perception that people have of home invasion. When you think of home invasion, the perception comes to mind of someone kicking in your door and ransacking your house. That would raise suspicion of any neighbor in any neighborhood across the United States. What these people do is just knock on the door and you let them in. That wouldn't raise suspicion to anyone. But while this guy's in the kitchen directing the elderly gentleman and what they're going to do, here's his partner in crime. And you can hear him talking in the background in the kitchen on how he's going to run power lines and he's going to do generator work and all this utility work, when obviously the partner here starts rifling through his drawers. These people are professional actors, they're professionally skilled in their trade, and this is what they've learned to do their entire life. They're some of the most conning, manipulative people that I've ever met in my law enforcement career. Of course, they wear the gloves so they don't leave fingerprints and all the basics, because CSI is so prevalent, everyone becomes so aware of it. So the questions come up, well, is there anything really in place? Well, the city of Warren does have some ordinances that regulate solicitation and actions by people that come to your house. So The only things that it doesn't apply to is charitable organizations and religious groups. Doesn't apply to minors who reside in the city, the Cub Scouts or Boy Scouts or Girl Scouts selling cookies or anything like that. They don't have to comply with the licensing requirements. If they're soliciting for a religious education or some youth organization, and they have to prominently display that license if you comply with one of the requirements to get licensed through the clerk's office. So once they do that, they have to display that license. They are prohibited from doing certain things. Just because you have the permit doesn't mean that you can do whatever you want to do to get your message across or sell your goods and wares. They can't operate in congested areas, block your movement, create a traffic hazard or endanger your safety. They can't use bullhorns, blowhorns, horns, whistles, anything to amplify their voice to get your attention to purchase their product. And they can't just come onto your property if you have it posted that says no solicitation. And that simple thing right there, most of the time, if you're a legitimate solicitor, they're not going to bother with it because it's not worth the hassle for them. When you talk to senior citizens, they remember things like General Douglas MacArthur, who says there's no security in this life, there's only opportunity. Well, that may be true to an extent, but I say if you remove the opportunity, then the only thing left is security. And if we can convey that message to our elderly residents that they need to remove that opportunity of the bad guy, then they're very, very secure. For years and years and years, the information was asked for identification. Any legitimate, bona fide utility worker or city employee would freely display it. That's evolved into a different realm now because people can make up their own stuff. What do you do when people drive to your house or come to your door and they're wearing this type of get-up? They have hats that say property inspector, they're carrying two-way radios, they have, their gloves or anything that makes them look official. These are actually things that were taken off some criminals after a home invasion was done. Ask for ID. Well, I would challenge anyone to tell me what a consumer's energy ID card looks like. There's no standard. It's not the same as a DTE card. It's not the same as a City of Sterling Heights DPW card, a City of Warren DPW card. And if we don't know, how can we expect a senior citizen or an elderly resident with someone at their door to ask for ID and then verify it as legitimate or bona fide? These are things that these guys are coming up with. They're throwing it out there. They're showing these people, just trying to smooth talk their way into it. They're very upfront, very comforting. We saw in that first video how it wasn't confrontational. How's the missus? Show some concern. I hear senior citizens tell me, well, I live in a condo complex. I live in a high-rise. I live in an apartment. I don't own a house. There's no reason for them to check my water or check my electricity. These people are so professional and so skilled in what they do, they will come up with any story at a whim to talk their way into your residence, whether it's an apartment, a condo, or a house. And this individual was actually arrested in the task force that we ran in Macomb County just 2 miles from here. But this is a high-rise condo complex, and you'll see that he can talk his way right in. I'm a member of, I'm with the maintenance company or maintenance department in your high-rise condo complex. We need to check your water. We've been doing some water work. And he talks his way right in. Next thing you know, there's several $100,000 gone out of the place, jewelry, money, any valuables they can find. That's just another example of the way that no one even raises an eyebrow. That maintenance lady there never even saw the guy. Nothing would raise a suspicion. He wasn't kicking in the door. He wasn't violent. There was nothing that would raise anyone's suspicion. So when we talk of crime against senior citizens and elderly, there's some fears and perceptions that people have and why they don't want to report the crime, why they don't want to talk to the police, because they fear retaliation. A large number of these victims are original owners of their home. They're not in a position to move out. They're not in a position to remortgage some property or up and move to another part of the community. They don't want to have any peer pressure or embarrassment of going to the bridge club or hanging out with their senior citizen friends that, hey, I may have been scammed. There's nothing wrong with being a victim. You're the victim. There's nothing wrong with that. And we will do everything in our power to help you, but you have to let us help you. A lot of times it's very common that we hear they don't want their children to find out, they don't want their relatives to find out, because they fear there's an appearance of, as they age, there's a lack of ability to care for themselves. When in reality that's not the case. We would love nothing more than to get these reports and dig into them and actually find out who's responsible for doing them. So if you are approached, whether it's in a parking lot of an apartment complex, it's in your driveway, it's at a grocery store, and they want to get to your house. When we talk about the water meter replacement, the contractors doing that work are required to contact the homeowner ahead of time, and they'll set up an appointment. They'll tell you who's coming, when they're going to be there, and the work that's going to be performed. If anyone knocks on your door and says, hey, I'm just here, surprise, to do some water meter work, should immediately raise a red flag. If you're not expecting anyone from a utility company or from the city, do not engage in any conversation with them. Don't try and play the banter of, do you have ID? Is the ID legitimate? Just keep the door locked. Something simple like that will go so far, and if that original gentleman in that first video would have just had his outside door locked, he never would have been able to get in the house. So something that simple, and a lot of people give me a crooked look when I say that, but it's really that simple. If you just keep that outer door locked, it goes so far in preventing this type of crime. If you don't know the person, you're not expecting the person, don't even answer the door. More likely than not, they're just going to go away. They don't want the confrontation or the attention. If you're approaching public, someone wants to get into your condo, they want to get into your apartment, stay in that public place. Don't allow them to follow you down your hallway into your apartment, because they're going to do the exact same thing that they'll do in a single-family residence. So don't be ashamed to ask a clerk, ask a library assistant, anyone where you may be, if you're approached and someone tries to come up with some story or some ruse to get you to believe that they need to get into your residence. The crux of it is, call us. If someone's at your door, they say they need to get in the summertime, the story is always to get you out. In the wintertime, not so many people are outside, and outside work is really limited, so they're trying to get in. That's when the utility approach begins. So call 911. If someone's trying to get in your home, that's an emergency, and we can't emphasize it enough that you're not a bother, you're not an inconvenience. We hear it all the time from senior citizens, I don't want to bother you, you have more important things to do. That's important. That is of utmost importance to us in the police department. If someone's trying to get in your home and invade your safe space, that's important. That is the most important thing that could be going on in your life at that time. Call us and we'll send someone out. If it's nothing, those are the easy ones. When we show up and find out you've been a victim, that's the hard time that we have trying to put the pieces together. So no harm, no foul. If you call us and it's nothing, no hurt feelings. If the person's gone, something suspicious, something just doesn't seem right, always call the police. We'll come out, no problem. We'll make the report for you. We'll talk to you. We'll ascertain if there's anything else going on in the neighborhood, try and put the pieces together, and we'll do absolutely everything we can, because this right here is what we're trying to prevent. And there's no way that I can express the devastation that a crime like this would have on a senior citizen. As we age, a lot of things happen. All of us. Our hearing starts to go, our eyesight starts to go, our mobility is really limited. But as this gentleman here in the top of the video is explaining to the resident how they're putting in some utility work in the backyard, here's his partner with the tool belt, gloves and all, taking her purse right behind her back. So when you look at incidents like this, for me, it's heartbreaking. And that's kind of what got me motivated in this whole type of crime several years ago. And with the support of the administration, I've really been able to develop an expertise in this crime and identify these people that are responsible for victimizing our residents and senior citizens. So this right here tells the whole story. And if we can just get the message out, I appreciate the time and opportunity to come up here and present it. You know, I'll talk to anyone at any time about it, and anyone that knows me knows that. But if someone's at your door trying to get in and you're not expecting them, that's an emergency. Please call us. We'll come out and we'll deal with it. If they are gone, something just doesn't seem right, call a non-emergency line, talk to a dispatcher, talk to an officer. They'll send someone out, and we'll make the report if it's necessary. So with that, hopefully that was relatively brief, and it's a lot of information in a very short amount of time, but that kind of gets the story across, and it's very, very important, and it's very devastating, especially for the elderly community.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I'd like to note that Corporal Nichols has begun training seminars around the country regarding this, and his work is duly noted. When I talked to Deputy Galasso and Commissioner Green, spoke highly of you, and all the concerns that I had written down and discussed with you were presented very well in this presentation, and I appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you.
And this has been around for decades. My grandparents got hit on Maxwell about at least 30-some years ago with the water. Go get the water to test your roof or something, and sure enough, there they are.
It's a whole subculture, and I mean when I go around the country teaching on this topic to other law enforcement it's really amazing to see perceptions that people have going into it. And then by lunchtime, they're really scratching their head saying, hang on here, there's more to this. And literally, it's been around for 1,000 years. And these people have adapted, they've learned to hone their skill, and this is their skill.
Thank you, Corporal Nichols. We'll go on to the next item.
Next item is
10.
item 10, which is a public hearing. In-rate proposed 2012 calendar year City of Warren water and sewer system budget.
Well, we're going to open the public hearing. Is there any discussion in regards to the proposed 2012 calendar year City of Warren water and sewer system budget?
Good evening, Council. My name is David Klein. I'm a civil service employee. In the mayor's recommended budget, he is requesting to replace the civil service employee with an appointed position. And the appointed position comes out to about $14,000 more than the civil service position. The city needs continuity of work. You know, if you make an appointed position, that person can come and go, they're at will, but people in the city, civil service employees in the city, move up and and know the city, knows the job, and when administrations change, they're still there and they can do the proper work that needs to be done as far as that. In the past couple of years, the percentage of civil service employees has gone down, yet the percentage of appointed position has gone up. With that, I would just please consider that recommendation and that request when you vote on the water budget. Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you. Anybody else want to discuss the water budget?
Good evening, Council. My name is Joe Hunt. I live at 8306 Stanley. I'll be brief. Pretty much in taking a look at the 2012 proposed water budget, I was looking at specifically certain areas, and one of the areas that I was looking at was basically the shared services where you have engineering and account and customer service. And the idea behind comparison to the other budgets, that some year engineering is included, some years they're not. And because of the proposed $24 million bond issue, I know that we had the road millage that was passed, and now there's going to be this proposed bond issue, that if maybe we could find out how these shared services are going to work with one another, particularly if you're going to fix the roads, you have to fix what's underneath the roads, and more so guarantee that the vendors that are going to be doing the work, that they come in and that you put within the contracts that if something messes up, that basically they come back and fix it for free. See, I live on Stanley, and every year basically over at Marion and Arsenal, there's a fire hydrant where the water basically spews out between January and March. It's done this for the last 5 years, and it'll probably do it this year. And every year for the last 5 years on Arsenal, there's a company that comes out where the drain is at. They rip up the cement, they rip up with a backhoe what's underneath there, they replace a pipe, and then the next year they do it over and over again. And the idea behind it is that on my street on Stanley, First Street south of 12 Mile at Van Dyke, that I'm noticing that basically this road needs to be fixed. And at the same time, if you're taking a look at the infrastructure and you're going to pass this bond on top of the millage, that you basically, in shared services with engineering, combine sources, come up with a plan and a priority list. I'd love to have you do my street first because my neighbors have complained all about the water coming up. And of course, I could actually go to engineering and explain it to them. I know I'm rated to 7. There's other people in Green Acres. But getting back into the water and sewer budget, that basically the council's in charge of oversight of the water and sewer system according to Chapter 15 of the Code of City Ordinances. And basically, what I look at with this water meter replacement program is that we spent $3 million of the $9 million so far to purchase water meters which are owned by the City of Warren, which are assets of the City of Warren, probably included in the proposed budget. But the idea behind the Aclara devices that are going into the houses is that they are not owned by the city. I've not seen a single contract or a single check that I've obtained from the controller's office that says the City of Warren actually owns any of the items. Basically, National Field Services, the vendor, is installing these units into homes. They put the data collection units on the poles. There's no planning, zoning, or building commission or department notes regarding the program. And this is my first FOIA back in June, so I'm just following up by merely saying to council that basically, do we actually own the equipment that we're purchasing under the water meter replacement program? Now, the idea, Officer Nichols, I attended the police academy a while back. He basically said that the company is going to contact the citizens, but all they're really doing is they're just putting something on the door and saying, call this 800 number. Now, within the request for proposal that was proposed by National Field Services 3 years ago, they basically went through and the city said, we would prefer these meters to be installed on the outside of the houses. And that's really where Chapter 4131 says the meter reading devices will be installed on the outside of the house. But in essence, National Field Services is entering into people's homes saying, here's your brand new water meter, 5/8 costs $41. And at the same time, these little beeper units are costing $97. The thing that gets me about it, they were made in Mexico. And I really, at this point, wonder when the people of the citizens of the city of Warren will actually own this equipment, and if this is actually going to be reflected within the 2012 water and sewer budget. Now, the idea is earlier this year, or I should say on October 26th, there were a lot of FOIAs that were denied that actually asked for specific information regarding the water meter replacement program. Karen Sprenger's been coming up here since February talking about meters, and the matter comes down to is that the devices that are being installed inside of houses are hermetically sealed, but they're not UL tested. In relation to the water and sewer budget, it really comes down to is that they're blowing through a lot of money. In fact, in the list of bills today, there were 2 checks for $188,000 to National Field Services, or I'm sorry, to Neptune, and I'm wondering, are they duplicate checks, or are they basically 2 independent checks with the same amount? I will not continue too much longer. I mean, the idea behind that is that within the water and sewer budget, I'll just email you all of my questions, and perhaps you can get the answers from the water department or from the mayor, from Mr. Sabal. But the final thing within the water and sewer budget are the fire hydrants, because these are budgeted things. Jim McDaniel's been coming up now for 4 months and saying that there are 2 fire hydrants on Hudson down at 9 and Van Dyke that are inoperable. I went by the other day, and sure enough, they're marked. And the idea is that if there's something wrong in the city, it's more along the lines of when will it be fixed. What my biggest concern is associated with the numbers, the final rate that council approved, is actually how you're going to use the road millage money and how you're going to use the water and sewer money, put them together, and make certain that the vendors come in and do quality work. See, I don't have what I consider to be the quality cement contractor in my neighborhood. I could tell you the names, but I'm not going to. But in the end, within the water and sewer budget, please look at all the information I mentioned at the committee as a whole and take that into consideration. Thank you.
Anybody else want to speak on the budget? If not, we'll move on to item number 11, public hearing. Mr. Secretary. Oh, on the budget? Okay.
The public hearing is still open, I hope?
Yeah, there was no motion to close it.
Okay, because you're too quick. Look around the audience.
I did. I'm
Okay.
sorry, Karen.
You're very quick.
Well,
Just be a little patient.
I'll try. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
My name is Karen Spranger. I've been coming to the council meeting for over 7 months now, and this is my opportunity to take time to really look at this budget carefully and scrutinize the one project that to me was fast-forwarded. The Planning and Zoning Department was not even incorporated in making this safe for the residents. The automated meter reader should have a safety device on it because the radio frequency that will be given into the home, we already have devices in our homes, plus the cell towers, plus we're going to get 2 more meters if we allow DTE to come in with the smart meter. Then the gas company, by 2030, will have their smart meters. Again, I question the safety of these devices. Radio frequency is something new. It's a technology that we have no measurement of because it's odorless and invisible. The symptoms are very simple: headaches, nausea, dizziness, insomnia, neurological disorder, DNA disruption. In order to file with the Department of the Health Department in the state of Michigan, I need to know the make, the model number, the ID of this new apparatus. The only thing I can say, if I can read this at the next public hearing or make arrangements to show this exact project and read the information about the product, and I hope you would contact the company, verify the FCC application requirement for the radio frequency. I've asked for this documentation through the legal department. I have yet to get it. I am requiring at the public hearing, I will demand to bring it back before the next public hearing to make sure that this is an item that is safe to be put in a residential home. This product has the safety data material information product from the state as well. The FCC has licensed it, but there's no documentation in the city of Warren for this application. Let's get into trade secrets. Now, if there's a trade secret on any device that's going into a residential home, or a copyright issue on how it's installed, because I have to trust the installer, which is National Field Services, I tried to make arrangements to read the material. I'm not a salesperson. I'm not in business. I'm not going to take the material and sell it. I want to read it and understand how it works. It's going into my home. It operates on a frequency. It will go off at a certain time in the morning, and go off at a certain time at night. And if it's not regulated, and nobody knows when it goes off, my neighbor's goes off, I'm interfered with that frequency, my neighbors across the street frequency, I've often used the word congestion. It's just like me having a cell tower in my backyard. Every day I have to go out and be bombarded with this frequency. This would be 3 miniature towers, small enough to do a radio frequency that we do not understand the capabilities yet, because we do not have it in the homes of every Michigan resident. That's 4,800,000 meters, 1 meter, multiplied 2 more times with the gas and electric. It's going to work off this beautiful grid that's going to control the citizen's life on how to use gas, electric, and water. Peak hours, they're going to be regulated. I believe safety is not a negotiable item here for any citizen to be subject to radio frequency at all. The elderly will suffer first. Children will also suffer. People with devices, pacemakers, medical devices in their home, it would interfere with that operation. Microwave energy belongs in a microwave, not an energy for transmission. Put it up high enough where we won't be bombarded. But guess who's going to be affected? The environment. Think of the little bumblebees that go around in the earth to do its daily thing in its life form, to help plant and regenerate life. We can't regenerate life with these radio frequencies because DNA and neurological disorders sometimes are permanent. They're not replaceable. If I was replaceable, so be it with God's grace. But man-made devices should not be allowed until they're thoroughly tested. This is going to be a 20-year apparatus in our homes, running on a battery. After 20 years, it stops. I still will have to open my door to a new meter reader. The one I have now, my mom had it in her home, and it still worked, and it's still working now. The problem is technology is replacing old technology. It's okay. It's also replacing, the gentleman said, people who need to work in the city. So we're compromising with automated device that takes away jobs, causes health and harm to the citizens. People need to get involved in our government, but we don't get involved because we don't understand, but we try to trust the leadership here tonight. I believe that the people that denied me my rights under the FOIA law did not give me an opportunity to speak and defend the argument and issues on the FOIAs and the request for this information that I want to present at the hearing. I've asked for arrangements to use the overhead projector. It's not in use, it's broken. So I can't show a budget, but I can read it in the library. I can get a hard copy of it, but I can't show it on record today to show the numbers and figures and the problem of the $9 million spent on an automated device that hasn't been proved to be safe, but yet I'm ordered and I'm told I need to put this in my home. Now, if I'm in violation of an ordinance because I'm protecting my private property and my easement right in my home, which is the water department meter, goes into my home, I believe as a third party in this contract, but I'm not listed, it's understood I'm a third party, and I can't get information about how the device works and how secure and safe it is and what the radio frequency is, something's wrong with this picture. Do you go buy an automobile without knowing the sticker price? Or do you get an automobile without the keys in it to drive it home, and you sign the sales agreement and you pay them the money for ownership of this vehicle? The ownership of this meter is owned by the city. The other unit is called the telecommunication unit. It's a device that's hooked into the meter. The job of that is to regulate and determine how much water you're using per day. Not at the expense at my health. Health is number one. Don't negotiate it for an object. If radio frequency is going to be an issue in the future, and it's a pollution thing, why don't we look at how to secure it in our home and make it safe by coming up with a shield? Now, some of you might have to do your homework, and I hope you try to do this, and contact the Eclair company, read about the device, ask them about the safety of it, and if there is any public health issue, how in the world am I going to turn off this device? Is there any way possible without taking it out of the home? Without water, correct? I'll have water with the device at the risk of my health. So I'm doomed. I can't live in my house because of the radio frequency, and if the doctor says it's affecting me, move out of my house. That doesn't make sense either to do. My dilemma is this. We have to sit down and resolve, before you approve this budget, my dilemma. My dilemma is this. I received a predetermined shut-off notice that my water would be shut off due to not taking this device. And this will happen not by somebody knocking on my door. They're just going to send or put 6 notices on my door. Then they come to the curb, turn off my water. That's not fair. There's something wrong with the protection of my property, my home. If the water device wasn't inside my home, great, you guys could do anything you want. But it wasn't designed that way. So can we please sit down, address all these concerns before any of this budget? I know that my $9 million is the cost for this program. We spend so much money of it already. Why can't we just stop, take a good look at the safety features of this device, figure out, is there a radio frequency issue here? If not, I'll go away. If there is an issue, and I'm right about the health issue here, I believe the Code of Public Safety, the public welfare, is not a negotiable item for any project that authorized by City Council or the mayor or the water department to come up with a program. Nobody talked about this until now. Everybody went ahead, got a grant money. We got this funded in such a hurried way that, yeah.
It's been over, you're going on 11 minutes, and listen, you know, there are no rules in regards to public hearing, and I don't want to start any rules, okay?
Okay.
But we want to wrap it up if we can, number one. Number two, as you know, this contract was passed, it's already part of the budget. I don't believe there's any reason to believe that 5 out of the 7 members are going to void the contract at this time.
It's not voting it.
Can we just
Okay.
wrap up at this point? And I really appreciate it if you could. Thank you.
I have requested this is going to be the first public hearing, correct?
Yes.
Okay. On the second public hearing, I'm requesting that you have available, and we work it out with communications, to go over the water department budget, and it says it's an agreement between the city of Warren and the city of Detroit. It said that the Board of Water Commissions was approved by the City Council on October 26, 2010. Now, this provides for the sale of the delivery of the water to the City of Warren. This requires the board to provide a written notice of the proposal rate changes and underline the data used to calculate the rate. In addition, the notice must be provided not less than 30 calendar days prior to the rate hearing requirement by Act 279. The consumption base rate at July 1st, 2010 was at $9.58 per 1,000 feet, and the monthly fixed rate was at $97,809. The impact of the newly implemented fixed rate is already reflected in the current rate charges in the City of Warren for the customers. This change took effective July 20th, 10, and as a result of a mid-year adjustment was necessary to cover the cost. This amount does not reflect a true accuracy of an expenditure that happened. And I would like to go over the figures and make it a citizen's responsibility to check the records for the expenditures, and I would like to have these arrangements made at the request of the public hearing. So be noted that the declaration of our ordinances, the state law, and the federal law be applied also.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who'd like to speak?
Good evening, Council. Tomas Bahania, resident of Warren. The first comment I'm going to make is, after reviewing the water budget, I noticed there's an additional appointee, if I'm correct. I don't think we need any more appointees. I know if the mayor had it his way, every single employee in the city of Warren would be an appointee, so he could hire them and fire them at will. But I don't think that would be the best thing for our residents of the city of Warren. The next question that was brought up by several other individuals was, who owns the meters? Well, something that's brought up in a video that's shown on TV Warren is that it's a self-funded program. Yet, okay, it's self-funded, but we pay for the bond issue, the $8 million and whatnot, in our taxes, if I'm correct, or sorry, in our water bills. So, is it the resident that owns the water meter? Because if I'm correct in stating this also, is that if the water meter breaks, the resident has to pay for a new one. So, I don't know. I don't know if the homeowner owns it or not, but it seems like they pay for it, so they might as well own it. Another thing I brought up during the committee of the whole was that I believe, hopefully this doesn't happen, but in future budgets, budgeting for peak off-peak charges, because we can read the water usage 2 times a day. Hopefully that doesn't occur either. And another thing I noticed in the budget is that there's a purchase for a new GIS system. does anyone keep track of how many GIS systems are being purchased by various departments in the city of Warren? Do we possibly already have more than we already need? And something else that was brought up during the committee of the whole is $22 million for a proposed sewage project. I share the same sentiment that Council President Pierre brought up regarding the proposal, and ironically, the comment that was made of possibly buying a few of the blocks for the same amount of money. You know, just buy a few blocks if they're abandoned or whatnot, put a retention pond in, maybe even build a park around it. Just an idea. And one last thing here is something was brought up regarding paving portions of the plant property. If someone could let me know what the company is that's doing that paving, it'd be greatly appreciated. Thank you for your time.
Motion to close public hearing? Motion by Sadowski, support by Canizio. All in favor, say aye.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Next item, Mr. Secretary.
Next item is item 11, is a public hearing, consideration and adoption of an ordinance amending Appendix A, Article 2, Section 2.04, Appendix A, Article 22, Section 22-09 through 22-12 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Warren, which relates to zoning, certificates of occupancy, and city certifications. Second reading.
This is a public hearing. Is there anybody from the public who'd like to discuss this matter concerning certificates of occupancy and city certification?
I would like for the record for you to actually read this zoning certificate of occupation and certificate because it wasn't posted on the website. As a citizen, I was unaware to get a copy of actually what it says and states, and I just found out that they just changed a little bit of the language in it. So please, before we start it, could you read it?
Anybody else want to speak to it?
Hi, Council. Joseph Hunt again. At last night's meeting regarding the specific certificates of occupancy versus certificates of compliance, Mr. James indicated there was about 4,800 houses, I believe it was, that were vacated in the city. And Mr. St. Pierre, you brought up a valid point. How many are in your district? And perhaps maybe because of these postings that exist outside of houses, they're in my neighborhood, they're in pretty much everybody's neighborhood. I've been around the city this year. I've seen most of the good streets and the bad streets, but if there was a way that basically we could get a spreadsheet and perhaps find out these houses are vacant and obviously they're for sale, they're in foreclosure, they're sheriff's deed. In some way these properties have a status, and because we have that great BSNA software, that if we could get a computerized list and maybe find out who actually owns the houses, especially where they were mentioning the game that the real estate people play where they go and take the posting off, and then you have to go back and put that on. If there was a computerized system, it would be a lot easier. From my perspective, it's the value of my house plummeted in the last 4 years, and to sell these houses would be a great thing, and to have a list, especially when we're talking about great houses that have been tagged, that in some way that we know what the elevated level of status that some homes in the city are beautiful and somebody just walked away, and other ones there's sort of in areas where the posting actually is says, you know, it's been vacant for a while, break in, or, you know, there's a lot of squatters in the city. And at the same time, if we could get a computerized Excel spreadsheet that lists all of the areas by section and perhaps by precinct or by district, that we can actually work with the real estate companies to offload all of these houses in some manner to increase our property values. Thank you.
Anybody else want to discuss the matter?
Tomas Banya, resident Warren again. Something was mentioned regarding changes being made since the first reading. I don't know if that's true or not, but if that's the case, I would recommend you ask the city attorney if it has to be reread again as a first and second hearing. Thank you.
Anybody else? All right, we're going to, any motion to close the public hearing? Motion to close. Motion by Green, support by Stevens. All in favor?
Aye.
I think I would like to, okay, I'll take a motion. Motion to by Green,
Support.
support by Stevens. In regards to discussion, Ms. Nancy Cooper Green's done a lot on this, and I think based on the fact that we see white tags in the entire neighborhood, and everybody can, I guess, relate to this one way or another, especially if you went door to door throughout the campaign, and maybe this will shed some light on anybody that may have questions on it when they see such a tag, and they see it removed, what we are doing in regards to that. Ms. Green?
Thank you. And I would ask that Dean James come up so he can answer some of those questions about what actually happens out in the field. The ordinance is intended to revise our zoning ordinance where it relates to certificates of occupancy and city certifications. We're going to be changing the terminology from certificate of occupancy to certificate of compliance. And the reason for that is because it's created some confusion where a brand-new home that's built under the state construction home, it receives a certificate of occupancy. And so sometimes there's confusion out there where people think that since they got that at some point in time, they're not needing a certificate of compliance later on. Let me go back. Certificates of occupancy apply to commercial properties. They don't apply to residential, except for in the very beginning under the state construction code. And that's what has created some confusion. So we're going to be changing the term certificate of compliance. It applies to non-residential property, and it is a certificate that's required when a business moves into the city or you have a change in the type of business there, so that we can look at the regulations and make sure that they're in compliance with all of the applicable regulations. For certificates of city certification, that's what applies to residential structures, city certification. If there is a home that is vacant and it's been posted, what that means is that you have to come to the city and have an inspection to make sure that that home complies with minimum standards before it's occupied. And that's what's also addressed in the ordinance, the requirement that the house can't be occupied until the inspection is done to establish that it meets the minimum standards.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions? The record should also reflect we had a committee of the whole in regards to this on Monday, and many of these issues were discussed. If memory serves me correctly, and I can be corrected, we can always amend it, the first reading to the second reading. There can be amendments to the whatever ordinance we pass. Okay, we have, if there's no further discussion, Mr. Sadowski.
A couple of the questions that we had discussed at the committee of the whole, and one of the concerns that I had, and I wanted to address them today. Appreciate you giving me a call and over the last couple of weeks going over this. One of the problems, the shortfalls, however you want to phrase it, with the ordinance, and one of the concerns I have is that you have an individual who puts a home up for sale. The home then, the homeowner has to move out because either they're moving out of state, they're moving into a new home, moving closer to a job, and you do have, in essence, a vacant home. And one of the questions that I received this summer was, during the middle of a transaction, the buyer became concerned because if sometime between their desire to purchase a house and the actual closing, if the house had gotten tagged, then there would be some financial burden to bring the home up to a certain standard. And that, in some cases, because that unexpected expense could come in, the deal would probably be killed simply because the person maybe couldn't receive the additional funding in order to bring the house up to code. And do we have any safeguards in place for that?
We do have safeguards in place for that, and that would be under Chapter 9, Section 9-165, which talks about the definition of dangerous buildings. And under that particular section, it does allow someone under those circumstances to register that property with the Public Service Director for up to 180 days, and they can get an extension on that for that type of situation where the property is going to be vacant due to that fact, and there aren't obvious violations for that particular property. Now, if it's a property that someone has moved out of and left, and there are significant violations that rise to the level of public health, safety, and welfare, those will be addressed. But for the type of situation you discussed, it would fall under this particular section.
And the section you said is under the dangerous, would you repeat that?
Right, it's under Section 9-165, which is our nuisance abatement ordinance.
So if someone who moves out of the house because they're moving, we'll use the example of moving out of state, they have 180 days to sell the home. What happens if the home can't sell in 180 days then? As long as the house is being maintained, grass is being cut, bushes being trimmed, would the house after 180 days then be tagged?
No, I don't believe that's what would happen. What this indicates is that a building or structure that has remained unoccupied is not a dangerous structure if all of the following requirements are met. The owner or agent notifies the Public Service Director that the building or structure will remain unoccupied for a period in excess of 180 days. The notice shall be given by the owner or agent not more than 30 days after the building or structure becomes unoccupied. The building or structure and adjoining grounds are maintained in accordance with the Code of Ordinances and the Construction Code. And even if the building or structure is listed as being available for sale, lease, or rent with a real estate broker, the property shall be maintained so that there are no City of Warren violations whatsoever, including the registration requirement that's required. So that would be a safeguard for that particular situation.
Perfect. That's, when we had talked earlier, again, still part of the concern that I had was we're trying to encourage people to obviously sell, purchase homes in the City of Warren.
Correct.
And I know the staff that we have right now has been very accommodating and understanding when it has come to properties that have been maintained, but also the tremendous inflow of vacant houses where people have just walked away. Grass isn't being maintained, property's not being maintained. You become into blight situations, and you know, my concern was, does the city want to get involved with vacant homes that are being maintained and putting these clamps down upon homeowners in situations that are a bit out of their control? They're doing the right thing, but yet they could be punished simply because they have the two properties, and in this case, trying to get rid of it. So with the safeguard that you have there in place, it makes me feel a lot better about what it is we're trying to accomplish here, which is ultimately trying to keep the city as blight-free as possible, trying to keep the vacant homes, trying to keep the structures that aren't being maintained, and going after those individuals. And in this case, we do have the clause that makes me feel more comfortable. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Mr. Chairman, thank you. First, let me say thank you very much for all the hard work that went into this. I realize, you know, the situation that the city is in, especially after last night's meeting, you know, the number of residents that we have, and actually commercial buildings too. When I spoke with you again today, I told you my key things that I was concerned with, although I'm still going to vote in favor of this, is that, you know, what it is that triggers the flag or the tagging of the structures, that we don't really have anything set, but we can't amend this ordinance again, and that's key. And with the assurances that I've received from the inspectors that were there last night and everything, and the quality of inspectors that we have, I don't worry about the concerns I had last night after your explanations, Mrs. Green, or Ms. Green. Part of the problem I think that we need to do is some sort of education to the general public on this, because almost everybody has one of these homes in their neighborhood lately. There's so many throughout the city, and it's not confined, although the majority of them are in the south end, but it's not confined to the south end. It's everywhere. I had one down the street from my house until a gentleman bought it and abided by the everything and fixed it up. Now it's for rent. So I think that education of the public, and possibly maybe a show on Channel 5 or on the public broadcasting station would be in order for this. My concern is, and I actually had this happen, and I want people to be aware of this, that when you buy a home, that if it has been tagged, there have been instances where the person showing the property has removed that tag. The property is then purchased without the purchaser's knowledge that there's X amount of items that need to be done, and there's, of course, a price that comes with that too. Then they can't move in right away, sticker shock comes, and they can't even pay to do the rehab in some instances. That's my concern. So I believe there needs to be an educational process that takes place so that we educate the general public. And that would be my only concern. But like I said, it still is a fine ordinance, and I will support it.
Mr. President. Sounds like a point of law show, Nancy. Are you in?
I'm in.
I'm putting together the show right now. Mr. Bacamino.
Thank you very much,
That'd be good.
James. In instance, if that ever happens, there's buyer beware, but could a prospective homeowner call the city and find out it has that home been tagged and has it been removed by the seller?
Yes, we do get a lot of those calls.
Can you give us that number right now, since we're trying to educate?
574-4504 will get you directly to the building department.
So if even whether you suspect it or not, it's just a phone call just to see if that, all they need to give you is the address, and you can
Yes,
tell them
we
it's
can
tagged.
tell you within seconds.
Thank you.
And if I could just add to that, I mean, that's good advice for anybody who's purchasing a home. You want to come to the city, we have a lot of information about that home, and you want to make sure that you come to the city and gather all that information so that you make the best decision for yourself and your family.
I have a question in regards to section 2209, small d, change in occupant. Now, is this after it is posted that in the event the occupant or new occupant shall obtain a certificate of compliance? That's posting, correct?
Okay, this particular section addresses commercial properties, business properties, so when there's a change in occupant in that business property, yes, they do have to come in and get a new certificate of compliance, because the regulations change. You may have one business that's using a building and the parking requirements can be significantly less than a second business that comes along, and we want to make sure that there's adequate parking and they don't need variances and things like that.
So that's when you say occupant of a building, well, is building a residential home? For
The
definition?
certificate of compliance only applies to non-residential structures.
Okay.
The city certification applies to residential structures. I know it's similar.
All right. Anybody else?
Mr. President.
Ms. Colegio.
Yeah, I'd also like to commend Mrs. Green for doing such a great job on this ordinance and being so patient with all the questions. But, you know, refresh my memory, on the meeting yesterday, I can't remember. If a person that owns a property is found as having taken the posted, the posted note off of the building, is there a penalty for that? And what is the penalty? If you're out inspecting and you see, you mentioned yesterday, sometimes you go out, you inspect, and then they come right the same day and take it off. What is the penalty for that?
We could issue a citation and take them before the courts, but proving it would be a whole nother ballgame. It's kind of hard to prove, unless you had them on video or something.
Okay.
Even eyewitness would be kind of difficult. Because
Okay.
we hear it all the time. And
So
it
that seems to
happens.
be an ongoing problem then?
Well, sure it is. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
It is a civil infraction.
Anybody else? Let's question the motion, Mr. Green?
Yes.
Mr. Stevens?
Yes.
Mr. Warner?
Yes.
Mr. Sadowski?
Yes.
Mr. Bachmanino?
Yes.
Ms. Colegio?
Yes.
Mr. St. Pierre, yes. Next item.
Thank you.
Next item, item 12 was removed by the administration, so it'd be item 13, a public hearing. Determination of a nuisance at 7613 Brevard, garage only. Consideration and adoption of a resolution.
All right, this is a public hearing. We're going to have to do these for all of them. And is there anybody who wishes to speak to this? Anybody want, no, seeing nobody? Motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Motion by Green.
Support.
Support by Warner. All in favor? Aye. Seeing no one opposed, or is any motions?
Motion to abate.
Motion by Green.
Support.
Support by Warner. Mr. Green?
Yes.
Mr. Warner?
Yes.
Mr. Sadowski?
Yes.
Mr. Bachmanino?
Yes.
Ms. Colegio?
Yes.
Mr. Stevens?
Yes.
Mr. St. Pierre? Yes. Item number 14.
Item 14 is also a public hearing, determination of a nuisance at 8126 Studebaker, vacant, dilapidated, 1 3/4 story aluminum exterior house with addition with crawl space, front covered porch, gates, chain link fence at east and miscellaneous debris, and consideration and adoption of a resolution.
Open up the public hearing. Anybody want to discuss this matter? Seeing nobody, is there any motion to close the public hearing?
Motion to close.
Motion by Sadowski, support by Bachmanino. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Motion.
Anyone opposed? Are there any motions on the floor?
Motion to abate.
Support.
Motion by Sadowski, support by Bachmanino. Mr. Sadowski?
Yes.
Mr. Bachmanino?
Yes.
Ms. Colegio?
Yes.
Mr. Stevens?
Yes.
Mr. Green?
Yes.
Mr. Warner?
Yes.
Mr. St. Pierre, yes. Item 15.
Item 15 is also a public hearing, review of special assessment roll 384, in-ray abatement of a nuisance at 26260 Grospec in the amount of $4,492.50.
This is a public hearing. Is there anybody who wishes to speak on this matter? Seeing nobody, is there any motions to close the public hearing? Motion by Green. Support?
Support.
By Warner. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Seeing none opposed, any motions in regards to having a special assessment for abating the nuisance?
To approve.
Motion by Warner.
Support.
Support by Green. Mr. Warner.
Yes.
Mr. Green.
Yes.
Mr. Sadowski.
Yes.
Mr. Bachmanino.
Yes.
Ms. Colegio.
Yes.
Mr. Stevens.
Yes.
Mr. St. Pierre, yes. Item number 16.
Item 16 is also a public hearing, review of special assessment roll 385, in-ray abatement of a nuisance at 22648 MacArthur in the amount of $2,267.50.
I'll open up the public hearing. Anybody wish to speak to this matter for this special assessment roll? Seeing no one, is there any motion to close the public hearing? Motion by Green. Any support?
Support.
Support by
Sadowski.
Sadowski. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Is there any, motion passes. Is there any motion to assess the special assessment roll?
Motion to approve the special assessment.
Motion by Green.
Support.
Support by Stevens. Is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, Mr. Green.
Yes.
Mr. Stevens.
Yes.
Mr. Bachmanino.
Yes.
Ms. Colegio.
Yes.
Mr. Warner.
Yes.
Mr. Sadowski.
Yes.
St. Pierre, yes. Item 17A.
Item 17A, consideration of an ordinance amending Chapter 41, Article 4, Section 41-141, 1, 2, and 3 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Warren relating to water and sewer rates, charges, and schedules. First reading.
Is there a motion?
Motion to approve?
Motion by Stevens.
Support.
Support by Green. Discussion.
Mr. President, real quick,
Mr. Bachmanino.
point of clarification. Our water rates, I just checked, and I thought it was true. They're consistent throughout the 24-hour period. There's no difference in rate. It's not like the peak electrical hours versus that. I know some of the audience brought up earlier.
Correct.
So, we are,
There's
doesn't
no
matter when you use your water, it's the same price anytime.
Right. No peak rates.
Any other discussion?
Mr. Chair?
Mr. Sadowski?
I know this is only the first reading, and typically, we have several meetings in between the first and the second reading. And, you know, I know that we had good discussions at the committee of the whole, but I still don't think that there's I don't want to say a clear understanding, but I don't know if there's a consensus yet for the budget. So for tonight's purposes, all we are doing is just approving the first reading, and typically we will have some changes in between the first and second reading, so.
Yeah, this is just for the water and sewer rates. That's the money that comes in for the budget for us to then make our decisions on the light items.
Correct.
Mr. Stevens?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And thank you, Mr. Sadowski. Yes, this is the first reading, and in fact, I think I indicated tonight during the committee of the whole meeting that I plan on putting forth some changes to this ordinance for the second reading.
Do we plan on having the second reading next week, at next week's meeting?
It's on, yeah, it's planned to be on the agenda for.
Thank you.
Yep.
This has to be in effect because we're on a calendar year budget.
Yeah, but I don't think we've ever passed it.
Well,
You know.
or we do an emergency appropriation. We have done that in the past. So.
I recall some of those. Okay.
But now we only do the emergency appropriation once. Yeah, okay, very good.
Is there any further discussion? We'll question the motion. Mr. Stevens?
Yes.
Mr. Green?
Yes.
Mr. Sadowski? Mr. Warner?
Yes.
Mr. Bacamino?
Yes.
Ms. Collegio?
Yes.
Mr. St. Pierre, yes. Item B.
Item B, consideration and adoption of a resolution urging regulation and law requiring 1-hour response from public utilities for public emergencies. Motion to approve.
Motion by Stevens.
Support.
Support by Bacamino. Any discussion?
Mr. Chair?
Mr. Sadowski?
I know this is coming from the mayor's office, but I know that, Mr. Stevens, you were the one that had spearheaded this, and I think that this is something that the city certainly needs. You know, we've got the example of the house on Martin Road that burned down, the garage that burned down. Unfortunately, it was only the garage that burned down, but you know, from that standpoint, it could have been a lot worse than what it was. It was a detached garage. Literally just behind it was the next garage, and you know, could have been worse than what it was. I also know that there have been times too in the city where a power line has been struck or a pole has been struck, and the wire lays in the street, and we literally have to shut the street down until the utilities come out. And sometimes that doesn't happen for a couple of hours. We tie up our police, and we tie up the street. So I think this is more than necessary.
Any further discussion, Mr. Bacamino?
Just want to add too, this summer, going door to door too, not just electrical lines, but we had a gas main break in the south end, and it took, we sat there and we watched it for 3 hours. Just, I mean, the pressure coming out of it was so loud, you could hear it blocks away, and it took them about 3 hours even to respond. So this is something I thank Mr. Stevens for spearheading it as well.
Any further discussion? I also, when we wrote this letter, I was talking about the Bishop generator because there's been so many blackouts in one particular area, at least in Warren, that one resident brought to my attention, and we did write this letter. But someone from DTE did get in contact with me. I could not find the number of the person who called me, so I apologize, but they are sending an engineer out, and I'll keep you informed. It wasn't because of our letter, though. It was because of another connection that I used that we got that type of response. So the Bishop generator is being looked at, so we will not, hopefully will not have the blackouts or have an explanation as why there's been so many blackouts in the area around between, I believe it's above 13, between Hoover and Van Dyke. And so I'll keep you informed as well. Thank you. Any further discussion? Mr. Stevens?
Yes.
Mr. Bacamino?
Yes.
Ms. Collegio?
Yes.
Mr. Warner?
Yes.
Mr. Sadowski?
Yes.
Mr. Green?
Yes.
Mr. St. Pierre, yes.
12C, consideration and adoption of a resolution approving the purchase of 4 fire apparatus together with 4 sets of loose equipment for the total purchase price of $1,826,024.39 to award RFP-W-8395 to the Suffin Corporation and to approve financing through an installment purchase agreement with J.P. Morgan Chase Bank, N.A.
Any motions?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Stevens, support by Sadowski. Any discussion?
Mr. Chair?
Mr. Sadowski, I know you had a committee meeting about this. Thank you.
We did, the auto subcommittee had met, and we had spoke with our commissioner, and I believe he's here tonight. And our subcommittee had approved the purchase of these 4 vehicles, and there were several very good questions that the committee had asked, and to our commissioner, Mr. McAdams. A couple of the questions that I see you have a presentation. I'll tell you what, I'll hold my questions off. If you want to go ahead and do the presentation, then we'll grill you afterwards.
Okay. Good evening, council. We have a short presentation for you guys, not very short, approximately 22 slides, very short. Two and a half hours. Once again, good evening, council. We're here tonight to talk about fire trucks, specifically heavy apparatus for City of Warren, and replacing 4 of those vehicles with 4 new identical engines and loose equipment to standardize the equipment on our vehicles in compliance with NFPA 1901 as well as ISO. Currently, we are being evaluated by ISO, Insurance Service Organization, which will determine a rating for our community that should be in place for the next 10 years. Currently, we have a 4. We hope to at least maintain our 4 rating and possibly go to a 3. What you're looking at now is our fleet of fire trucks. Engine number 1, it's a 1998 Sutphen. It was destroyed in the accident this past winter and auctioned off this spring. Engine 2 was a 2002 Pierce pumper. It has about 80,000 miles on it. It's listed in fair condition. Engine 3 is also a 2002 Pierce pumper. It also has about 80,000 miles on it, described in fair condition. Engine 4, a 1998 1998 Sutphen. It was damaged in an accident recently. It's not awaiting disposition for repair. It is in the process of being repaired now. This is one of the vehicles we intend to make available for the auction in late summer, early fall. Engine 5 is also a 1998 Sutphen. Has 170,000 miles on it. We're hoping to replace this one. It's also listed in poor condition and make it available for the fall auction. Engine 6, a 2006 Pierce pumper, about 65,000 miles on it. This is our newest vehicle in our fleet. Trucks and rescues. We have a 2002 Pierce aerial truck, 85-foot ladder with 2,000-gallon-minute pump. It has about 60,000 miles on it, fair condition, has some corrosion issues. Its twin, purchased together with the 2002, is a 2001 85-foot, same issues, about 40,000 miles. It's our reserve aerial. Our heavy rescue, 2005, was given to us by the state of Michigan, has about 65,000 miles on it, listed in fair condition. Reserve. Because of the accident that totaled the vehicle, we're down to one reserve for our fleet. It is currently a 1990 Sutphen pumper. It was, actually, this is the one that was removed from service due to the failed DOT inspection last year. It was also auctioned. This is our reserve here, the 1990 Sutphen. It's used as engine 4, and we hope to replace this one with your approval and make it available for the fall auction. 1990 Sutphen pumper, in service as engine 1, 150,000 plus miles, poor condition, and we want to make it available for the auction with your approval. Response areas. Our city is divided up into 6 areas, 6 stations, 3 on the south end, 3 on the north end. And the numbers indicate the station locations, and as you can see, they're spread out throughout our community. The placement plan for the new trucks. If, with your approval, and we purchase the 4 new fire trucks, they will go into service at stations 1, 2, 5, and 6. Essentially the 4 quadrants of the city, 2 north, 2 south. The 2002 Pierce truck will be relocated to Station 4. The 2006 Pierce will be relocated to Station 3. The older of the 2002 Pierces will become our spare vehicle to be used when apparatus is out for maintenance and scheduled repair by either our DPW department or private vendors. What's before you is a truck that is very similar to what we plan to purchase with your approval. This happens to be a City of Orlando fire truck. It's very similar to what our specification is. This is just another view of it. And its color scheme is very similar to what we would also do, or if approved. Questions?
Mr. Chair?
We have a motion, we have any questions? Do you have any questions, Mr. Sadowski or Mr. Wu?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. McAdams, one of the questions that I had asked you in the committee of the whole was why we had chose this particular style of vehicle and why this vehicle would be advantageous as opposed to if we had gone with a hook and ladder or something else. And your answer was actually pretty interesting.
Well, for our community, in our response and our mission parameters, this truck, a fire truck, is the most versatile piece of equipment. What we did was solicit ideas from 4 different manufacturers. We gathered specifications for fire trucks from 4 different competing manufacturers. We combined them into a single specification and then gave it back to each one of the competing manufacturers and asked them, could they build this truck? The response from them was yes. So then we brought that back and broke it down into approximately 50 requirements that were mandatory. And then we created a request for proposals and sent it out and asked each manufacturer to meet this minimum set of requirements and build us or propose to us your solution to our problem. And what we came back with was the truck that we hope to gain your approval for tonight.
Now, the fire trucks that we use, the equipment that we use, we participate probably more in auto accidents, extractions than we actually do house fires. Is that an accurate statement?
EMS calls. We respond to about 15,000 incidents, of which about 76% are EMS calls. Our fire volume and auto accidents represent approximately 8%. And then public assists make up the other largest category.
Now, we routinely send the pumper truck with an EMS to someone's house. Is that correct?
Correct. On EMS calls, we currently respond a 2-man squad, as well as a 3-man fire engine, which is also ALS engine.
Now, are we in the process of re-examining that policy?
Yes. We've started along that process. We're looking at some different software for our dispatchers and some different training, and then creating a different response mode in 2012 that would essentially reconfigure what type of apparatus responds to specific types of calls. The goal is to further streamline and maximize our service response and thus save our equipment.
Well, right, because, when we're talking about 180,000 miles, we're talking, 180,000 hard miles on a vehicle because we're doing all city driving.
Yes.
And that's a lot of stop and go, and, and by re-examining that policy, now, I have always, in the past, I'd been opposed, because you and I, we had a bit of a debate in your office on this, where I understood the reason why we did send the pumper truck to a home, but as you explained, going through and having dispatch ask a series of poignant questions, we could determine whether we needed to send the entire station.
Correct. It's called priority dispatching. It's essentially pre-transport triaging of patients via telephone. Essentially, a 911 caller would call in and request EMS. The dispatcher would be trained to ask a series of questions to kind of triage them into a category. On those categories that are less life-threatening, we would send the appropriate smaller response. But things such as heart attacks, potential strokes, gunshots, stabbings, those types of things still would warrant a higher level of response. But things like, I'm just not feeling well today, I cut my finger, I hurt my back, those things could be triaged into a lower priority and therefore treated with less people.
Okay. Going back to the equipment now, we are purchasing a series of what we call loose equipment for the vehicle. We were going to have to purchase that loose equipment whether we bought this brand or we bought any other brand.
Right. The equipment, although it's part of this purchase, is not tied to the vehicle itself. It's a separate portion of this purchase. The loose equipment is what we need to standardize across our entire fleet our equipment so that it conforms with NFPA 1901 for placement of equipment on a fire truck, as well as our ISO evaluation. The purchase of equipment is designed to maximize our points as well as comply with NFPA 1901.
Now, in our backup, it indicates that we would be leasing these vehicles but we are actually buying them. We will own these vehicles, correct?
Yes.
Why are we using the terminology of leasing through Chase?
Well, I think.
Yeah, good evening, Council. Craig Treppa, purchasing agent. What we're doing is we have $250,000 set aside in this year's budget, which will be a down payment for this year's payment. Then we're going to a purchase installment agreement, which we will make 6 annual payments beginning December 2012 for 6 years. So on December 2017, this equipment will be paid off to what you would call a leasing company or financial bank. Yeah. So then we own the equipment.
And our rate that we're looking at right now is 1.95, but that, we don't have that rate locked in, and we won't have that rate locked in until we actually make the commitment, which would be tonight.
Once council approves, if you approve tonight, then we'll go back to JP Morgan Chase Bank, and then they'll be able to lock in that rate. We can't commit to that without council approval.
Is there, what's the type of fluctuation from day to day on that you've seen?
We're hopeful it's not going to change by much, if anything. We did go out and get rates. We did, again, about 2 weeks after the fact, which was about 2 weeks ago now, and they didn't really change much in that time period.
Okay. All right. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, Mr. Green.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Green.
Real quickly, we talked in our subcommittee meeting, and I just wanted to get this on the record as well. Mr. Stevens, I believe you were on the RFP, correct?
Yes.
Commissioner, you had several people from the fire department review it and test the product that we're going to be purchasing?
Yes.
Could you go through that for a second, please?
Yes, we had four members of the department actually come in and evaluate the three finalists. And informally, we had approximately 20 other members who came to the site, came to the evaluation, and actually looked at the vehicles, kicked the doors, kicked the tires, opened the doors, and took a look at them, every aspect of how they would work off of them. And unanimously, to a man, they agreed, even though informally, that this was the vehicle that they wanted.
Good, so this is exactly what the fire department.
Yes,
they want.
we have
Great.
strong support from the membership of the department for this vehicle.
Good, good. Thank you, Commissioner.
Mr. Chair?
Mr. Warner?
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You're welcome.
Commissioner, I appreciate your phone call. Pretty much all my questions were asked, but the warranty is 5 years on the pump, 5 years on the engine, and 5 years on the transmission. Our DPW department is going to be doing the preventative maintenance on that?
Yes,
Or the scheduled maintenance?
the changing of the oil, that type of thing during this 5-year period.
Now, is there something that Sutphen recommends to their recommended schedule of maintenance?
Yes, and there is training as part of this contract provided for our DPW staff.
They're going to be coming in and doing the...
Training of our personnel on how to do preventative maintenance and service of these vehicles.
And how soon do we expect to see these at the stations for the residents?
Mid-July.
Mid-July. Okay, now the vehicles that you're going to be auctioning off, would that money go back into the...
General fund.
Your general fund?
The city's general fund. I'd like it to be mine, but the city's general fund.
Okay. Now, who typically buys used fire engines at an auction?
Well, our last auction, they went to scrap.
And they went to scrap?
Yes.
They're not used as extras in a movie?
Unfortunately, because of the age of these vehicles, the most likely outcome will be recycling for these vehicles.
Okay. All right, thank you very much.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll quit. Mr. Stevens.
Thank you very much. I just, as Mr. Green pointed out, I was on the RFP committee, and I think everybody that served on that RFP committee did a stellar job. But I would like to recognize Craig Trippa, our purchasing agent, who put together the packet and the criteria, initial criteria, and it was phenomenal as far as everything goes. And then we actually brought in, although you had a bunch of people that had expertise in different areas, you know, the fire mechanic and the garage mechanics and different other aspects of expertise that came into play into making the decision, the final decision. In fact, I think everybody was on board at the end, but really the final decision was made by the firefighters themselves. I just want to thank you, Mr. Trippa, for all the hard work you did in this. Thank you.
Mr. President.
Ms. Clegio.
Yeah, just a quick question. Good evening, Mr. McAdams, Mr. Treppa. My question is, you know, the buying of the 4 fire trucks at one time, you know, kind of like a big hit at one time. If we had some type of rotation program with the vehicles, do we have any type of rotation program now that you're in a process with, or is that something we could maybe work on in the future, you know, to keep, you know, instead of buying 4 at one time, you know?
Going forward, that is something that the mayor has indicated that we don't want to get to a point where we need to replace an entire fleet. I understand how we got to where we're at, but going forward, the mayor has indicated that he would really appreciate a planned replacement plan as opposed to a necessitated plan, which where we're at now. And going forward, that is something that we are working very hard to put in place.
Okay, good. And the vehicles you have here, also service for them is readily available, right, in the area, correct?
Yes. We expect that over the next 5 years, our DPW staff will become trained, certified emergency vehicle repair technicians. And also Apollo and their representative is here, as well as Representative Sutphen is here also. We've had a long-term relationship with them, and it is a very good relationship, working relationship with them. And additionally, as a long-term representative of Sutphen, we've had great experience in working with Apollo.
Great, and I just want to say a good job to the committee at reading all the backup, very thorough, and I like the fact that they did get the input and have our fire guys come right out and get hands-on right in the vehicle before they made their decision. And when you're ready for the rotation program, I would definitely support you with that. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Seeing no discussion further, Mr. Stevens?
Yes.
Mr. Sadowski?
Yes.
Mr. Werner?
Yes.
Mr. Green?
Yes.
Ms. Colegio?
Yes.
Mr. Bacamino?
Yes.
Mr. St. Pierre, yes. Item passes.
Thank you very much, Council, and thank you, citizens of Warren.
Pleasure. Keep up the good work.
Next item is 17D1, consideration and adoption of a resolution authorizing the mayor and clerk to execute the Macomb County Hazmat Team Service Agreement.
Any motions?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Green. Support by Bacamino. And discussion. Seeing no discussion, Mr. Green?
Yes.
Mr. Bacamino?
Yes.
Ms. Colegio?
Yes.
Mr. Stevens?
Yes.
Mr. Sadowski?
Yes.
Mr. Werner?
Yes.
Mr. St. Pierre, yes. Does that go to D2?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Item 17D2, consideration and adoption of a resolution authorizing the mayor and clerk to execute the Macomb County Technical Rescue Team Service Agreement.
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Bacamino,
Support.
support by Ms. Colegio. Discussion.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Stevens.
If I may, through the chair to the commissioner, the technical rescue, the training for our personnel on this is through Oakway or?
This is through Macomb County, and to a certain degree, you passed recently a contract with interlocal agreement with Oakland County to allow us to work with, utilize and work with Oakland County. So this is a portion of this. It's along the same lines. What this agreement is the service agreement that says that what will be offered to other communities as well as ourselves. So essentially, if we have a large-scale incident in our community, then it creates a mechanism by which the community can bring in the team, pay the expenses of the team, and then seek reimbursement through our cost recovery ordinance to pay for the event.
Okay, I thank you very much on that, and this is just a point of information. I understand it, I haven't seen it, but I've been told that there is a certain amount of equipment for confined space, the masks, the hose, the pumps, and A-frames and different things like that that are at the wastewater treatment plant. So that's for your information. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Mr. Bacamino?
Yes.
Ms. Colegio?
Yes.
Mr. Stevens?
Yes.
Mr. Warner?
Yes.
Mr. Zadowski?
Yes.
Mr. Green?
Yes.
Mr. St. Pierre, yes. Item 17E.
Thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Item 17E, consideration and adoption of a resolution approving the sale of tax-reverted property located at 8100 Hull to Mount Calvary Evangelical Lutheran Church for community garden purposes and authorizing the city attorney to commence legal action or quiet title.
Motion to approve.
Support.
Motion by Mr. Bacamino, support by Ms. Colegio. Is there any discussion?
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Stevens.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would ask the makers of the motion to amend the resolution, number one, to amend the purchase price to $1, and number two, to amend the resolution to add the following verbiage, that Mount Calvary will covenant to only use the property for community gardening and distribution of harvest for charitable purposes or if not feasible, for another community purpose for at least 7 years.
Judge Biernat, is that plausible?
It's laudable, but not plausible, in my opinion, because in spite of the good work the church is doing, city is prohibited from giving away property to an entity, irrespective of what good works that entity may be doing. $300 was reflective of the value at the time that was contemplated in the resolution, and we have a 5-year period in which, during which time the city will be quieting title. Conversely, the church will be maintaining its garden and combining that property together with other property which enhances the area to the benefit of the city. And it will represent to us a consulting, to the city, a consulting asset which we could go to if we were to replicate this type of activity in the future. So we are, the way it is presently structured, we are not simply giving away to a charitable organization city property. The city has set a price on it that is reflective of its value under the circumstances and will actually receive benefits as I've outlined to some degree. So as I said, the motion is laudable, but I think it runs into some fundamental issues.
And the other point I want to make is they're also getting a pretty good deal in the sense that we're doing the quieting title, correct?
That's correct.
And usually whoever gets the tax reverted property, it's a procedure. You have to quiet title in the circuit court in order to clear up anything in regards to a tax reverted property to transfer title.
That's correct. And I might also say that to our benefit, this property will be covered by $1 million insurance policy. Will fall under the not the city, but rather the church will be insuring the property.
And we additional insured, or does it matter until
Yes,
the property?
we would be an additional insured, I believe.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Stevens. I didn't mean to steal your thunder there,
Okay,
but
but if I may, a little follow-up, and I won't get into a long problem on it, but we have conveyed property for $1 to businesses before.
Yeah, but this is charitable. That's the difference.
And we have waived charitable costs on different events in the past. So it's not like this is something that hasn't been done. And we are charging them $1, so it's not for free.
Well, certainly, my heart is with you, and I think that, as I said, I think that that's on its face reasonable. I just know that when it comes to transference of property under these circumstances, I think the value has to be reflected in the transfer. Sure. That's my opinion. Someone else could have a different opinion.
I respect your opinion.
And we don't want to lose this deal over $299. Maybe if there was a little bit more, but I'd just rather be safe than sorry, Mr. Stevens, with all due respect. Unless there's amendments to the motion. Mr. Bachmino.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. Stevens, for your efforts and attempt. I think in the past, though, haven't we've waived, like for St. Anne's or some of the schools, the parade, the fee. It's not a transfer of property or anything, so clear that up, but it is well intentioned. Just real quickly, I think, is it Reverend Roger Facioni? Could you come up just briefly, give maybe a 1 minute, 90-second, let the public know what you plan on doing with this and good that it will do for our community, especially over there.
Sure.
So, thank you.
Pastor Roger Faccioni, Mount Calvary Lutheran Church. With me this evening is the president of our congregation, Mr. David Hops, and his son, David Hobbs Jr., who is a star scout and who is working on his communications merit badge. And this is, his being here tonight allows him to work towards that as he moves on to try to get his life rank. And so they're with me from the church. I want to just briefly begin by thanking Ron Worth, the planning director, Bill Gamble, the neighborhood services coordinator, and Mary Michaels, the assistant city attorney. These three people have really helped us at the church, who know really nothing about all these things, get to where we are tonight. And so I wanted to publicly thank them. When we came earlier this year before you, we had indicated that we were desiring to take that piece of property that where there once was a home and has now been torn down and use it as a community garden. We have a very big need in our neighborhood in the 48089 zip code and accompanying 48091 zip code. There's lots of real needs in the community. We, over the past year, 2010, in the emergency food and commodities area, through our small little food pantry, because we are a small community church, have fed 2,401 families. And those 2,401 families, when we look at the number of individuals that made up those families, total to over 6,100 individuals. We have lots of families where there are children and grandparents living together with mom, sometimes dad, and it's a very needy area. We wanted, therefore, to be able to have fresh vegetables that we could include as a part of our food pantry, given our volume. And this was the 2010 data. The 2011 data, as we are now pulling it together, shows an increase of as much as 30% overall. I mean, the need is very dramatic. And so we just wanted to be able to offer fresh vegetables out of our pantry. We also do every Monday night a community dinner for the neighborhood. We average 75 to 85 people every Monday night that come to the church, and we wanted to be able to also make our vegetables available to them, along with the meal that we provide, as well as we have our daily ministries out of the church that we offer, and we have tables that we literally have available for free for those coming to our church, whether it's a Head Start program, our literacy programs, our service programs, and we wanted to make the fresh vegetables available to them. So it's really just for the community, for the neighborhood. We're seeking nothing back in return.
Right.
And we believe that the resolution and the accompanying documents, the covenants, are all things we can live with.
Reverend, thank you very much. What time is that Monday night?
That starts at 6 o'clock every Monday, and dinner's at 6, so you're more than welcome to come.
And the other thing I have is I have some families that have contacted me over on Republic Street.
Sure.
How do they get a hold of assistance? They're in dire need, but some
All
people are just...
all they really need to do is call the church. 757-0319 is our church phone number.
757-0319, and
is our
someone will
church
put
phone
them
number.
in the right direction.
Yep, and we have a Miss Marianne Habrack, who was with me earlier in the summer when we first came before the council on this, is our Family and Community Center coordinator. She's a longtime resident of the neighborhood, past president of the congregation, and she, I know, would be more than willing and ready to help.
Now, is this, I know the fresh vegetables and that, but in the winter season without the vegetables and that, you have a canned food pantry or?
Yes, we have a food pantry that operates year-round. We want to be able to enhance it with the vegetables.
Is this something that citizens have to schedule ahead of time?
Well, our pantry operates 5 days a week from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m., and then it operates on the weekends as well, and is available for those who seek emergency assistance. So, all you have to do is call or walk in. We also have people that walk in for help.
Okay, because this particular family, I know, with 3 children, it's just one of those things, just between paychecks, they're working, they're having trouble making ends meet, and the last 2 days before the next paycheck come, the pantries at their house are empty, and I think it would help them a lot, so.
We have a number of families. We also do commodity foods because we have a number of seniors who are on fixed incomes and who have the same, similar needs until their Social Security checks come. And so we are available for them as well, so.
Thank you so much for doing that, and hopefully after today you can do even more.
Mr. President?
Ms. Colegio.
Yes. Pastor Rogers, as I call you, as you're known also.
Right.
I know it's been a pleasure working with you, and I'm really excited about this garden project. In the city of Warren, once this gets going, this will be our third known community garden.
Right.
One at Church of the Nazarene is the Hope Garden, and the food goes to the Hope Center Macomb. One at Church of the Nazarene, and let's see, the Fellowship Garden is the other site, and the food goes to Interfaith. Your site's down there, I believe, in a very needy area. Correct me if I'm wrong, you guys, the lot that we're talking about it was an abated lot, and it's too small to fit the city's conformity for building another house, correct, I believe?
Yes, it's immediately adjacent to our church.
To the church. And you guys, if I'm correct from talking to you, took care of this lot.
Well, we have been maintaining it so that the lawn is cut and the debris is taken off so that it looks presentable for the community.
Right. One aspect of this that I'm very excited about, and that's why I was so happy to see this come along right when it has, is that General Motors has expressed an interest in doing some community outreach projects in the city, and they approached the mayor, and I had some conversation with them because I was still in transmission going this way, but transition, I mean, coming this way. But one of the things that they're interested in is your community garden and building your beds for you. So if we can get this, lot over to you, I know that you have a good support network that'll be there for you, and I think one of a very needy neighborhood of the city. So I'm excited about the project. I know from working with you, it's not just a food pantry you have there. You have so many different organizations that work out of your church to help the needy, from GEDs to the foster children to after-school programs. You're just a hub for the community there, and I hope this can be a spiral right there in the neighborhood and just kind of build out from you, and you can be the light down there. So, I'm definitely in support of this item. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Green.
Thank you. Pastor Roger, what's the phone number again, one more time, please?
I'm sorry, the phone number is, of course, area code 586-757-0319.
I did have it right. What's the hours on Saturday of the pantry?
The hours on Saturday and Sunday are based on emergency calls to the church. The regular hours are Monday through Friday, 9 to 1.
Okay, so I went to drop some stuff off, and I thought it would be open on Saturday.
Yeah. It's our pantry's all volunteer fund, run, and that's what makes it tough is on the weekends.
Thank you very much.
Any further discussion? Pastor Roger, if we could do it, we'd be honored. Everybody on this council would be honored to just give the property to you.
I
But we're just doing, rather be safe than sorry type situation. And the legal departments, I know, has researched this, so we want everything to be.
We understand. We've had lots of discussion with Mary Michaels and the assistant city attorney, and we understand the complexities here, and we are just pleased to be able to help and be of service to the neighborhood and this community.
And we're honored to have you. Thank you. We'll question the motion. Mr. Bacamino?
Yes.
Ms. Colegio?
Yes.
Mr. Stevens?
Yes.
Mr. Werner?
Yes.
Mr. Sadowski?
Yes.
Mr. Green?
Yes.
St. Pierre, yes. Item F.
God's
F.
peace and Merry Christmas to you. Thank you so very much.
And you.
Thank you.
Item 17F, request of the Division of Public Works for award of bid ITB-W-8466, standby services for emergency snow removal for the 2011-2012 winter season to Florence Cement Company and United Landscapes Incorporated at the prices listed on the bid tabulation sheet.
Any motions?
Motion to approve.
Sadowski.
Support.
Support by Green. Discussion. No discussion. Mr. Sadowski.
Yes.
Mr. Green.
Yes.
Mr. Warner.
Yes.
Mr. Bacamino.
Yes.
Ms. Colegio.
Yes.
Mr. Stevens.
Yes.
Mr. St. Pierre, yes. Item G.
17G, tabulation of bids and recommendation in re, mowing and maintenance service for parks, athletic fields, and recreation centers, and consideration and adoption of a resolution accepting the lowest bid submitted by Green Meadows Lawnscapes Incorporated in the estimated amount of $88,025 annually for an estimated two-year grand total of $176,050 ITB-W-8486.
Motion to cut the fields.
Motion approved.
Motion by Bacamino.
Support with discussion.
Support by Green. Discussion, Mr. Green.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Bowman, good evening.
Good evening, Henry Bowman, Warren Parks and Recreation Director.
That's a great tie.
Oh, thank you.
Just the one thing on here just jumped at, it's estimated to your total cost. Do we have a cap on this? Can we put a cap on it?
The only thing, I don't think there would be any
what's your
reason,
estimate go over?
I think it would go under, because the one is estimated for the, for the fall cleanup,
Right.
estimated 8 times. The only, I don't see us, I don't think we used 8 this year.
They all say estimated.
Yeah,
All the
so,
times.
the only thing we could see is maybe, if we had a little longer warming part of the season, maybe needing to extend the cutting another couple of weeks, that'd be it.
Okay.
So, but I don't think, if you want to put a cap on it, I don't think it's a big problem,
All right, so we put a hard cap on it.
so.
Okay. Would the maker of the motion amend to cap it at the estimated two-year grand total as shown in the bid summary?
Yep, no problem.
There's is that amendment?
That's fine. Hard cap it at 176.50.
All right. So amended. Any further discussion? Mr. Bacamino.
Yes.
Mr. Green.
Yes.
Ms. Colegio.
Yes.
Mr. Stevens.
Yes.
Mr. Warner.
Yes.
Mr. Sadowski.
Yes.
Mr. St. Pierre, yes. Item 18A.
Item 18A, consideration and adoption of a resolution recognizing Liberty Family Outreach as a nonprofit organization operating within the city of Warren. Motion to approve.
Support.
Motion by Stevens, support by Warner. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Item B.
18B, consideration and adoption of a resolution approving the request of Superior Air Ground Ambulance for renewal of an ambulance license to operate ambulance service in the city of Warren.
Motion to approve.
Support.
Discussion. Motion by Green, support by Stevens. Yeah, I'm going to recognize myself here in regards to, is there someone that can speak to this?
We're here just in case you have any questions.
The company address is on 2000 Centerwood Drive in Warren, correct?
Correct.
And I've only lived in, where is Centerwood at exactly?
It's the back part of the property is Stevenson, so we are in the southwest, the extreme southwest corner of Warren. Right across the street is Oakland County, and I think behind us is something else.
Oh, you by Stevens and DeQuinder?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, yes.
All right, because, I saw the owner lived in Elmhurst, Illinois, and it just sort of alarmed me a little bit. And Centerwood, I haven't heard of, been around the city a long time, and I don't remember that street. But you have a facility there, I assume?
Yes.
And how many ambulances do you have there?
We have about 30 located there, and then we have three other stations? 3 other stations in the other counties. So we got a total of close to 50.
All right, then you've convinced me. Thank you. Any further discussion? Mr. Green?
Yes.
Mr. Stevens?
Yes.
Mr. Bacamino?
Yes.
Ms. Colegio?
Yes.
Mr. Warner?
Yes.
Mr. Sadowski? Yes. Mr. St. Pierre, yes. Item 18C.
Thank you. Have a
Thank
good
you.
night.
Item 18C, which was 4P on the consent agenda, tabulation of bids and recommendation in-rate lead-based paint evaluation service, and consideration and adoption of a resolution accepting the lowest qualified bid submitted by ETC Leaders, LLC, doing business as ETC Environmental Services, at the unit prices provided in the bid documents for an estimated total cost of up to $19,947 for a one-year period, ITB-W-8484.
Motion?
I'll make a motion to approve for the purposes of discussion.
Motion by Stevens, support by Bacamino. Discussion.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I pulled this item and Q off the agenda as based upon comments that were made even by the last council, which some of those people are here tonight still, that this council possibly wants to take a different direction with CDBG focus. And although some of these items would still be required, even if we were to take that focus, and some of those items are required by other city services also, that we could table this until we have a committee of the whole meeting with CDBG representatives. And that's my purpose, and my ultimate goal is to actually table this until a committee of the whole meeting.
Motion to table.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? I'm sorry, anyone opposed or none being opposed, the item is tabled. Item 18.
Item 18, D, which was 4Q, tabulation of bids and recommendation in Ray, general lot surveys and plot plans, and consideration and adoption of a resolution accepting the lowest bid submitted by Giffords and Webster's Engineers Incorporated at the unit prices provided in the bid documents for an estimated total cost of $10,950 for a two-year period, ITB-W-8474.
Motion to table for the same reason.
Support.
There's no discussion in regards to tabling motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So passed. 18E.
18E was added to the agenda. James M. Biernat, City Attorney, in Ray, consideration and adoption of stipulated and final order of dismissal, Mark O. Liss versus City of Warren, case number 11-2883-CZ.
Motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Stevens, support by Green. I'll make a roll call just in case. Stevens?
Yes.
Mr. Green?
Yes.
Mr. Sadowski? Yes. Mr. Warner?
Yes.
Mr. Bacamino?
Yes.
Ms. Collegio?
Yes.
Mr. St. Pierre, yes. 19?
Item 19, audience and opportunity for citizen participation.
Are there any? Mr. Tony Police? Hey, he's front row.
I didn't think I was first, that's why I hesitated. Anyway, Tony, please. Live in Warren. I really don't have too much to say, but I found a good name for the council now. Nobody going to ask me what? The Yes Council. And that could be good if it all works out that way. But I'm sure there's going to be times when we're going to have a few, hopefully, have a few no's, and they deserve to be no's and stuff like that. Mr. St. Pierre, you don't need to ask the council to close the public hearing. You just have to say the public hearing is closed. And then the other thing is, if you're going to hit that gavel, hit it one time and that's all. Now, on a brighter note, I don't know what's going to happen between here and Christmas or New Year's, if I'm going to be here or whatever. But if I'm not here, I want to wish everybody a very Merry Christmas, a Happy New Year, and remember the people that put you in office. And again, have a good night.
Thank you. Kevin Meyer?
I have some pictures I wanted to see if I could pass up to you.
Got it? Thank you, Mr. Bacamino.
My name is Kevin Meyer. I live at 14647 Elger. That is at the corner of Elger and Primrose, and that is south of 13, west of Hayes. And so that northeast corner. Twice this year, I have been a resident there since 2002, so going on almost 10 years. And twice this year, I've had a pool installed in my basement, and I did not ask for it to be installed. I've had 2 flooded basements. The pictures that are going up there for the people watching on TV show mold growth on the back of drywall that has been taken out of my house. I have insurance for drain backup insurance. They paid for the first time, which was back in May, almost $10,000 with a $1,000 deductible. This time around, I was told I can do it again, but if I have another claim within 3 years, I can be dropped. So I did not go ahead and have someone do it, just because if I get in an accident, I want insurance and I don't want to get it dropped. So I guess what I talked to the mayor, and he, gave me the we're sorry, and this, but I'd like to know if we can get maybe the mayor, the water department, the town, to do a town hall meeting to find out what's going on here. Because I lived in Fraser when I was growing up. When I was 5 years old, we had a flooded basement. My parents still live in the same house. That's been 37 years. They haven't had a flooded basement since. They put a new pump station in over at Masonic and Beacon Lane, and that solved the problem. We just bought 4 new fire trucks for $1.8 million. You would think that we can get something done over here. I don't know what the problem is, but there's some people that's been on that street and had 7, 8 times it's flooded. I know there was a class action lawsuit back in '97. I don't know what was involved back then. I didn't live in the city at the time, but I just think we should get together. Not sure which one of you is the representative up in that district. Okay, Mr. Warner. I'm sorry, I did vote for you, but I just said I wasn't sure. I knew you were on there before, so I voted for you as incumbent. But I just, maybe we can get together and, figure out what's going on here. I know some of you are looking at the pictures, and I see the eyebrows are raised. I have 2 young kids. I'm sure you don't want that in your house. You have 2 young kids. My wife took the week off of work because you all know what's coming up on December 25th. Who comes that day? My wife was wrapping those gifts for that occasion, and she went off to do some more shopping, and water came up, and all those gifts that go out on the 25th to the kids from you-know-who were all destroyed. So there's an expense that we didn't want to have to pay out. If we can get some help or some questions answered. I know I talked to the mayor, and he says it's we've had lots of rain, and it was a 100-year rainfall. So I guess if it's a 100-year rainfall, we shouldn't have to worry till 2211s. But since I've been here, I know we've had lots of rain in the 10 years. It just seems odd that it's happened twice in 1 year. And also on our street and on Moroso, Elger, Glody, they've had some sunken manhole covers, and they have raised them up. Did when they were, constructing, did debris get in there and they didn't clean it out? I don't know. Maybe they can flush those drains so we don't get the backup. Now, we just didn't get water. We got raw sewage backup. There's going to be another lady that's going to talk in a few minutes. She had 16 inches, I think, in May, and 12 inches. We didn't have that much. We only had 7. Only 7. We only had 7 in May. We only had 4 now. You might say only 4, but that's you know, that's a lot. And the one picture that shows the drywall that's tore off, that's how I'm gonna leave it. I'm gonna have to, I got the pictures of the blocks. I have the washer and dryer gonna be up on blocks. That's the way we're gonna have to live until something is taken care of. And I'm sure you can all agree that our house is not worth as much now. I'm sure our taxes are gonna go down if I'm not, you know, mistaken, because we don't have a basement that's worth anything.
Mr. Meyer,
Yes, sir.
you've gone 5 minutes.
Oh,
Usually
okay.
3 minutes, you went 5, and I just wanted to let you know.
Okay,
But it was
okay.
important for us to hear.
Okay.
And Steve's going to get your address. We're going
Okay.
to follow up on it. Thanks a lot.
All right, thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Mary Beth Panganavan?
Oh, very good.
Is there things?
Excellent, yep. Unless you're feeling- I'm Mary Beth Panganaban. My husband John and I have lived on 30761 Primrose for 21 years, and neighbor of Kevin's. And we're the ones, we had 16 inches in May and 14 inches just on November 30th in our basement. And I think I've spoken with a lot of the neighbors. There's probably about 20 households. I think what we're most interested in, because a lot of these people have lived there for a long time, one of the worst stories was a couple that she has lung cancer and he has a history of lymphoma. He's in remission right now, but they had to clean their basement because they don't have the funds to hire a company to do it. So if we could have a town hall meeting with, you know, the city council, the mayor, the Department of Water, and because we want to be proactive. We're willing to take some responsibility. We'd like to put in a new sump system, my husband and I, but one of our neighbors just did, and they still got water. So if we can understand what's happening and spend the money the right way and get a good system, that we won't have this problem, we just thought maybe that would be more productive than lawsuits and things like that. So we would appreciate it.
Thank you. We'll pass it on to make sure the mayor knows.
Pardon me? Oh, thanks.
Thank you. Chris Pasternak?
Hello, Chris Pasternak, citizen of the city of Warren. The mayor just wrote a nice newspaper article, or article was written, that he contacted Senator Levin, I do believe, about this water issue, asking for assistance. Just a little FYI. I'm now going to read some recommendations for a certain individual. I'm going to change the names to protect the innocent. So we're going to start November 16th, 1966. Mr. Potter was a member of one of my sections of education, 331, 332, in spring of 1966. This course is concerned with the introduction to teaching as well as growth and development of children. Mr. Potter worked hard in these classes, and his grades were always above average. He participated in class discussions and added much to this part of our work. At this time, at times, I thought Mr. Potter was tense and nervous. He seemed to have a worried look about him. I know little about his personal life and am not qualified to judge. I'm wondering, however, if this tenseness will carry over into his teaching. Albus Dumbledore, headmaster of Hogwarts. January 28, 1967. It is difficult for me to write with confidence about the capabilities of Mr. James Potter, for I had in as a student in only one course, Fundamentals of Speech, in which I saw him 1 hour per week. To know him is not to forget him. He is extremely intense. He appears to work very hard. In meeting speaking assignments in class, it was extremely difficult to keep him within the time limits for short speaking exercises. He prepared...
In line with that, another minute.
Yeah, thanks for interrupting me. I'm trying to get this done. Lost my spot. He prepared so thoroughly that he had a great deal to say and seemingly could not boil it down to the time limits necessary imposed on the students. Well, kind of here. I was irritated by this at first, but when I realized or thought I detected a native intelligence unbridled, I became more patient with his efforts. I feel that he has a complex personality, which I do not really know. He is congenial and cooperative, neat, alert. Since he was a transfer student who has few faculty members on campus who know him well enough to give recommendations, I intend to write what I could for him. Professor Snape, Department of Potions, Hogwarts. Last one I want to read. Now I lost it because I got to speed up here.
But we're all, the 3 minutes are up.
Well, I guess I'll have to read the other ones later because
Okay.
I was interrupted.
All right, thank you. The next person is Karen Springer.
Yeah, thanks.
I would like to make arrangements at the next public hearing and hope that you all consciously will work on getting the equipment fixed so when the overhead projector can be available to show the actual budget. I noticed you each had a copy of the budget today, and because I couldn't address the figures on each page and have the citizens follow along with it, I would need to know what arrangements we could make using a computer system that I noticed the fire department representative had available, and he could use a PowerPoint presentation. If one of the council people would like to work with me to get this budget that is public record, that is only found at the library, which is called a hard copy, and when you try to present information at a council meeting to discuss, it's a disadvantage not to have the facility available to show a figure and a page. I just have to read the documentation. It's quite interesting for public record. There's notices of intent for the City of Warren to issue and to exceed only $5,305 in capital improvement bond and a notice of a right to petition for the referendum thereof. So it's published, and this was done October 1st, 2008. So when things are published, it only makes sense to read the ordinance that I have no clue what it's all about. It's being changed and amended, and you guys are going to pass a law for our city, and I am a citizen that can't even get a simple ordinance of public health and safety on a device that's going to affect my ability to live in my house, free and secure of any product. So, Consumer Protection Act law protects the consumer. The law for the citizens should have the same rights. But if you are going to be amending it at the last minute, that's not called public hearing to review an ordinance. You're writing it as we're doing a public hearing. I've never heard of that in the entire law of any professional city or township. To amend something is after it's passed. To amend it before it's passed, it's unheard of. But if I can go to court today to hear about shutting off my water, so be it. The judge will say it didn't happen, so he can't do nothing about it. Well, if you can get away with this, I'll try getting away with that. Thank you.
Mr. Banya.
Good evening, Council. Tomas Banya, resident of Warren. Before I begin, as I stated at the first meeting that I came up here to speak at of the new council, the attorney opinion written by Nancy Cooper Green states that you must provide equal time, and that time is 5 minutes and 12 seconds. So, First thing I'll begin with is I was in the city library on Sunday, and I wanted to see one of the council meeting videos. I was told that I can't see it because they're boxed away. Well, why are they boxed away? You got plenty of open shelves. Why don't you just put it on one of those while you're exchanging the other shelves? But I guess apparently that's an issue. I also went to the Library Commission a few months ago, actually I believe the day of the primary, and talked to them about availability of council meeting videos at the various libraries, how it's very scattered. They said it would be corrected. It still has not been corrected. So I'm bringing it now to your attention. One thing that was done was there was a motion to table put forth during the list of bills, but the motion to table was not acted upon until after all discussion was made. Once a motion to table is made, it must be completed at that moment. It cannot be postponed. Brought up a few months ago regarding the lights. I see the same 3 lights that were burned out a few months ago are still burned out in here. That's all right. Once again, announcements is not supposed to be on the agenda. I told you can suspend the rules to allow it to be on the agenda, but I guess we don't want to follow the council rules of procedure. It's just another thing that happens in the city of Warren. A little bit of research I did here, and my numbers are a little bit off because it's hard to get any kind of information in the city of Warren. We currently have approximately 37 appointees. Actually, if the water budget is approved, I believe it becomes 38. With a total at a total cost of $3.774 million. If you include the benefits that they would be receiving at 2 times the salary, it would come out to $7.5 million, which is approximately 7.5% of our city's budget. That's a lot of money that we're spending on appointees. I got the city calendar, 2012 calendar in the mail today. Warren, a friendly and responsive city hall. Inside, here's a letter from the mayor. Oh, before I begin, I was going to say, I'm celebrating a 6-month anniversary, which I'm going to explain to you guys in a second here. Dear Warren resident, a friendly and responsive city hall is the theme of the 2012 official city calendar and annual report. As your mayor, I have made it a priority to be responsive to your concerns, questions, or problems. My open door policy at City Hall is an open invitation to visit me in the mayor's office without an appointment. I asked 6 months ago today to meet with the mayor. He has still not met with me. 2 minutes. There's still 2 more minutes. You're violating the legal opinion written by Nancy Cooper Green.
We're done. I'm not going to argue with you. Next up, next person, Ms. Sanker.
Not a problem.
Thank you.
Good evening. I come up here this evening to say Merry Christmas. It's spelled Christ. It's a Christian holy day that even the pagans believe in. And Santa Claus, who doesn't believe in him? And that means St. Claus. Every design of Christmas is Christian as it should be, right up to the star on the top of the Christmas tree that led the wise men, kings, and the shepherds to that holy place. I live in America, and my country is a Christian country, and I have every right to say Merry Christmas. Our government should not force other people's values or the lack thereof on us. No, we are a Christian country founded on Christian principles as determined by our forefathers. Christianity was their legacy to us. And because of this, America is benevolent, caring, sympathetic, and willing to lay down their lives for these principles as set forth in our Constitution. At Christmas, the greatness of our value system is not because it's a holiday, but because it's a holy day. The birth of our Creator demands that we show compassion to the poor and to the widow. These Christian beliefs were our leaders' beliefs. If you are saying happy holidays, please don't. That means nothing but a party of overeating and overdrinking. But saying Merry Christmas puts us into the spirit of the Savior's birth of giving, caring, helping, and sacrificing for someone else's good. You have the right. Our forefathers, who founded this country on godly principles, have asked his mighty intercession at every meeting and event that they gathered for. Don't follow the world's actions. The ones you inherited as an American are much too good to lay aside. So Merry Christmas in this joyous season that gives us hope, because hope was born in a manger over 2,000 years ago. And for Americans, may God, who has his roots in our Constitution, our pledge, our money, our patriotic songs, our oaths of office, and on practically every building, government building in the Washington, D.C., may God bless America again. Remember America's covenant with him in the Declaration of Independence as we happily greet each other during these holy days with the correct greeting of Merry Christmas. After all, there would be no Constitution, no Declaration of Independence, no Bill of Rights, if not for the babe in the manger of Bethlehem, who gave them to us first.
Thank you, Ms. Sanker.
Merry Christmas.
Thank you, same to you. Motion to adjourn? Motion to adjourn. Motion by Warner, support by Bacamino. All in favor, say aye. Aye. We are adjourned.